And that's why you keep sinking money into a venture that does not realize any benefit. This is what we have found in this report and much of our study over time of the kind of interventions that international financial institutions like the World Bank continue to impose on global South countries like Nigeria. They continue to prescribe solutions that are entirely different from our socio-economic realities, so that at the end of the day, nothing works. But me and you are burdened with debts that still, as people on the table have put it, that still stretch, to generations unborn, like this particular loan, which has a 40-year repayment. So the question remains, who is fooling who? The truth is that the Nigerian government, like most of the governments in Africa and other places that have been unfortunately tied as a dependent to international financial loans, have become what we call in our local colloquia a payee. They are a payee to international financial institutions. They have become a facilitator of our capital to international interest. So these guys come in, give us loans with crazy interest. Sometimes they tell you, they deceive us, they deceive them and say that, oh, this doesn't come with an interest. But when you look at a loan stretching over a 40-year repayment, and like even Safer mentioned, for a 40-year repayment, and it was cancelled in the second year, and you're already paying a 30-something million over it and a $1-something million interest. Mind you, the repayment is denominated in dollars.
Very important.
Yes. It's very important to state that the repayment is denominated in dollars. And with the economic situation, the devaluation, the inflation.
Yes, but more.
Yes, also driven by the World Bank. And this, I thank you, Safer. These conditions that we have found ourselves have been driven by the World Bank. The devaluation of the naira, deregulation, removal of fair subsidy, have been prescriptions that have been handed down by these people to people who call compradors, because they continue implementing solutions that do not work for our people. One interesting point to make here is that for every time the World Bank has assessed, because like Sefa has said, this is a third leg of the program. The program has been implemented in first and second phase, and now a third phase that ended 5 years ago. And for the general rating of the program, it has always been moderately unsatisfactory. That means you did not learn anything, or there is something you are bent to achieve. Yes, there's something you are bent to achieve by implementing something that keeps giving you no results. Yes, in Lagos, I'll take you back to 1999. I think that was 1999, when the World Bank International Finance Corporation proposed to expand the city's water supply in Lagos here. They said a private capital will come in and expand the supply. What the head of the water corporation told them then was that the cost tariffs that they were going to propose, that they were proposing as the outcomes of such rehabilitation of water systems, were too expensive and people will not be able to pay it. And this has been like a pattern with international financial institutions like the World Bank, implementing cost tariff procedures that cannot be realized. And in fact, there is no political will in many cases to realize that. For instance, we go back to Bauchi again. The conversation with Bauchi opened up the fact that even though the World Bank's investment had proposed an increase in tariff as part of what could be the outcomes, state governments could not, in good conscience, impose that kind of high tariff. So even though the World Bank's intervention designs water corporation to begin to mimic private services, at the end of the day, they are still tied to the armpits of government, who realize that they cannot implement it simply because the socio-economic context of this country does not allow and cannot allow for people to pay such exorbitant monies. And so somewhere like the Bauchi state, we had people at the corporation tell us that in fact water is like an electoral calculation tool for many politicians. Yeah, they promise they are going to give you water, they are going to. So in places like the north, where we know the context of living there, I mean, these are sellable promises, right? So when they get in, they cannot implement such kind of high tariffs because it's going to undermine their political legitimacy. So at the end of the day, they are handicapped. So who is fooling who? One important thing to state here also, and this is also to situate the broader butchering of our national utilities and public commonwealth, is the fact that for all these interventions, the World Bank prepared or forced states to adjust their water policy documents in such a way that the corporations now become private entities that can be bought or managed by just about anybody. But at the end of the day, it's not still working. And ironically, like Mr. Bode has said in his statement, for many of the people we talked to, the last time that they enjoyed consistent water was back in the 90s, when it was managed by the states, when states recognized that this was an essential service that could not be allowed to be dictated, that could not be allowed, to be managed by private interests who care so much about their profit rather than how people access these basic services. So the fundamental question remains, is private management a better alternative to public management? Because from what we saw in the field, the challenges that they identified with public management did not miraculously disappear by the time they began to corporatize state water boards. It did not disappear. Instead, it even became higher. We saw a situation where people had to finance their own assets from beginning to end. We were going to pay for meter. Some people paid meter 5,000, 50,000. Some others who lived far away from the central water point had to buy connection pipes. Just like you buy your connection wires for light. They had to buy connection pipe just to be able to get to water points. But at the end of the day, nothing happened.
A truly serious situation.
Yes. Okay. I just have 1 minute and I want to.
As a matter of fact, you have just 10 seconds.
Yeah. So I just wanted to also sound an alarm. Part of the things we found out in interrogating the World Bank interventions was also the a loan of $700 million that was given to Nigeria in 2021, just immediately after this program. I think under the World Bank Sustainable Urban and Rural Water Supply Sanitation and Hygiene Program. Yeah, SOWASH. But till today, only about 80-point-something million out of the $700 million loan have been released. And the reason why much of this money has been withheld is because Nigeria refused to pass the National Water Resources Bill, if you remember that bill in 2020. Now, passing that bill, if you read the content of that bill, which was a component of this World Bank's intervention, it mandated the country to pass that bill, which would have seen licensing requirements for you to dig borehole, for you to fetch water from well, for you to be able to use maybe River Oshun, national water resources, for people to be able to gather around such public places. It would have required license. And in that bill, it also provided that private capital supported by government could get into any state and acquire the water body of that state to do what they want to do, right? And it was
truly serious situation.
It was so vicious that people rejected it. But it is on that basis that these monies have been held, so that the threat of having such a bill passed is not entirely gone, and we have to be very vigilant that it doesn't happen, and we continue to defend our right to public water. So, I mean, the conclusions of this report are behind you. Get the report. But I think that the most important thing to say is that we need to declare a national emergency on the state of water services and access in this country.